Have you ever had one of those days where you feel less like a person and more like a pinball?
Oh,
You
absolutely.
know that feeling.
Yeah.
You wake up, and before your feet even hit the floor, your phone is already buzzing.
It's like a reflex, isn't it? You just reach for it.
You do. And boom, there it is. A crisis email from your boss. Or maybe, a passive-aggressive text from a family member.
And just like that, the plunger hits the ball. You're off.
Exactly. You're launched, you're in the shower, and your mind is just racing with arguments you haven't even had yet. You walk outside, the weather's gray and drizzling, and your mood just plummets.
Of course.
Then someone cuts you off in traffic, and you're seething for the whole commute. You get to work, and it's just 8 hours of putting out fires that other people started.
And by the time you get home, you just collapse.
You collapse. You're just staring at the ceiling, feeling like life just happened to you.
That is that is the universal feeling of the modern age, I think. It's the sensation of being the effect. You feel like a pawn on a chessboard, moved around by the environment, by other people, by your own old habits.
It's exhausting, and honestly, it feels kind of inevitable. Like, that's just what being an adult is. You survive the day, go to sleep, and do it all over again. But today, we're going to push back on that. We're going to challenge that inevitability. We're looking at a whole stack of research and philosophy that argues you don't have to live that way. We're talking about episode 11, Causation, Become the Cause.
We have a really fascinating mix of sources today. We're drawing from three uh, very powerful but very different wells of knowledge. First, we've got the ancient Hermetic wisdom of the Kybalion, specifically its sixth principle of cause and effect.
Okay.
Then we have the ironclad discipline of Stoic philosophy. Think Seneca, Epictetus. And finally, we're grounding all of it in modern behavioral psychology, looking at things like behavioral activation and atomic habits.
I love that mix, the mystical with the mechanical. But let's be really clear for everyone listening, because Hermetic wisdom can sound a little out there.
It can, yeah.
We're not talking about magic here. This isn't about waving a wand and controlling traffic or, manifesting $1 million by thinking really hard.
No, absolutely not. We have to ground this right away. This is a practical philosophy. It's a mental framework designed to help you move from being a reactive effect of the world to becoming a proactive cause in your own life.
It's about understanding the machinery of your own choices so you can stop drifting and start steering.
That's it exactly.
If this episode helps you, please hit like and subscribe for the next one.
So let's start with that core definition. We have to look at the Kybalion. This is a text from the early 20th century, and it claims to be conveying ancient wisdom. It outlines these 7 principles of how reality works. And the 6th one is causation.
And it's stated so simply, right?
It is, every cause has its effect, every effect has its cause.
Which, on the surface, sounds, I don't know, almost too simple. We learned that in kindergarten. You push a block, the block falls. Why is this considered some kind of hidden wisdom?
Because while we get it in physics, we almost never apply it to our own lives. We tend to view our lives through the lens of chance. The text has this incredible line, chance is but a name for law not recognized.
Chance is but a name for law not recognized. Wow, that's a heavy statement. It basically kills the whole idea of luck, doesn't it?
It completely reframes it. Think about a roll of the dice. We see that as the ultimate symbol of randomness.
Right.
But if you had a supercomputer that could analyze the exact weight of the die, the friction of the table, the force of the throw, the air resistance, the outcome isn't random at all. It's a certainty. It's just the result of a very complex chain of causes.
A chain we can't see, so nothing just happens. Everything has a backstory.
Precisely. The Kybalion uses this example of a stone falling off a mountain and crashing through a cottage roof. To the person inside, that just seems like terrible luck, a random tragedy.
Yeah, of course.
But if you rewind the tape, you see the rain that softened the earth weeks ago. You see the sun that expanded and cracked the rock over years. You see the geological forces that pushed the mountain up millions of years ago. There's a chain of causes stretching back forever.
Okay, I get the physics of the rock. But how does that apply to me being annoyed at my coworker or feeling burnt out?
Yeah.
Because that feels like it just happens to me.
And this is where it gets a little uncomfortable for us. We often look at where we are. Maybe we're burnt out, or our relationships are always strained, or our house is a total mess, and we treat it like the weather.
Like it just showed up.
Exactly. I just have bad luck with relationships. I'm just a messy person. Yeah. My boss is just a jerk.
We externalize it. We make it something the universe did to us.
We identify as the victim of the circumstance.
Yes. But the principle of causation says, no. These are effects. And if there's an effect, there must be a cause. The chaotic house is an effect. The burnout is an effect. The strained relationship is an effect. That can be a really hard pill to swallow. It feels a little like we're just blaming ourselves for everything. If I'm burnt out, is that my fault?
And it's not about blame. It's about empowerment. Blame is a moral judgment. It looks backwards and says, you're bad. Causation is just a mechanical observation. It looks backwards and says, input A led to outcome B.
So if you don't like the outcome...
You can't just wish it away. You have to change the input. You have to change the cause.
Okay, so let's define those terms then. When we say effects, we're talking about the outcomes we experience, the argument, the fatigue, the anxiety.
Correct. Those are the downstream results. The causes are the inputs you can actually choose. And based on our sources today, those inputs fall into 5 specific categories: your attention, your language, your actions, your environment, and your standards.
Attention, language, action, environment, and standards. Those are the levers we can actually pull.
They are. But here's the problem. Most people don't pull those levers consciously. The Kybalion paints this really vivid picture of the masses being obedient to environment. They're moved by the wills and desires of people stronger than them. They get whipped around by the collective mood of society.
That makes me think of social media. If the collective mood on Twitter is angry, suddenly I'm angry. I didn't choose it. I just sort of absorbed it.
Exactly. You were obedient to the environment. You were the billiard ball being hit by the cue. You weren't the player holding the stick. You were the effect.
And the whole point of this discussion, the reason we're here, is to figure out how to stop being the billiard ball, how to start being the effect, and start being the cause, to be the player, not the pawn.
That is the entire goal.
So how do we actually do that? Because it's one thing to say be the cause, but it's another thing entirely when your boss is yelling or you're exhausted and the kids are screaming. It feels like the current is just too strong to decide to be different.
And this brings us to the science of what we're calling the turn. This is where we move from reaction to intention. The Kybalion describes this as rising to a higher plane.
Which, I gotta be honest, sounds a little mystical. Rising to a higher plane. Sounds like I need to go meditate on a mountain for 10 years or something.
It does sound that way, but it's actually very mechanical. The text explains that the masters, the people who are causes, they don't escape the law of cause and effect. You can't escape gravity, for example. If you jump off a cliff, you will fall.
Right.
But you can use other laws, like the laws of aerodynamics, lift and thrust, to overcome gravity. You use a higher law to navigate a lower one.
I like the swimmer analogy you brought up. Can you walk us through that?
Sure. Imagine a river with a really strong current. The masses, the people living in reaction, they're like a log drifting in that current. They have no agency. They go wherever the river takes them.
That's the pinball feeling.
Exactly. If the river hits a rock, they hit the rock. If the river goes over a waterfall, they go over the waterfall. Now, the master isn't some magician who snaps their fingers and makes the river disappear. The master is a swimmer.
Okay.
The swimmer is still in the water. They still feel the cold, the wet, the force of the current. But because they are applying a cause, their stroke, their kick, their breath, they can navigate. They can swim upstream or across the stream to the shore.
So the external circumstances, the economy, the traffic, the rude compet, that's the river. You can't stop the river.
Yeah, but you can stop drifting. And in modern psychology, this swimming skill often comes down to a concept called behavioral activation.
This was a huge aha moment for me in the research for this. We usually think motivation works in a specific order. I feel good, so I do the thing. I feel motivated, so I go to the gym.
Right. We think the feeling has to cause the action. We wait for the feeling. We wait for the effect of motivation to just happen to us. I'm just not feeling it today, we say.
All the time.
But behavioral activation flips that script completely. It says, action precedes emotion.
Action precedes emotion. So you do the thing in order to get the feeling.
Exactly. Think about the biology of it. If you're feeling low or uninspired, your system is in a low dopamine, low energy state. If you wait until you feel like moving, you'll wait forever. The feeling won't come because this system is stagnant.
You have to be the cause.
You have to initiate the movement, you go for the walk, you wash one dish, you write the first sentence, and that action triggers the dopamine release. The action changes your brain chemistry. The action causes the new mood.
It's like jump-starting a car. You don't wait for the engine to run before you turn the key. You turn the key to make it run.
That's a perfect analogy. The swimmer doesn't wait for the current to push them where they want to go. They start kicking.
But how do we make sure we actually kick? Because in the moment, when I'm tired, I don't want to kick. I want to float.
So we automate it. We can automate this causer mindset using what psychologists call implementation intentions.
We saw this in the atomic habits stuff, too. It's basically a way of pre-programming your brain, right?
It is. You're deciding your cause in advance.
Hmm.
You look at a future situation where, you usually drift or react, say, getting home from work and just collapsing on the couch. And you set a rule, an if-then plan.
So if I walk through the front door,
Then I will immediately put on my running shoes. You're not deciding in the moment when you're tired and emotional and hungry, because the tired you will always, always choose the couch.
right, the tired you is the log in the river.
Exactly. But the planning you is the swimmer. You've already designed the input. You're acting as the architect of your own future behavior.
Let's make this really real. Abstract philosophy is great, but how does this help me on a Tuesday? Let's take 3 big areas where we all struggle with being reactive: work, relationships, and habits.
Okay, let's start with work. This is a classic battleground for cause and effect.
I can paint this picture. The reactive scenario, the pawn scenario, is my typical Tuesday. I wake up, I grab my phone immediately because it's my alarm. And since it's in my hand, I open my email. I see a crisis from a client. My cortisol spikes. I haven't even brushed my teeth, and I'm already in damage control mode. I skip breakfast. I rush to the laptop. The rest of the day is just responding to pings, jumping whenever Slack goes off.
Okay, in that scenario, what's the effect?
The effect is overwhelm, anxiety, scattered energy, and probably doing bad work because I'm just rushing all the time.
And the cause?
I guess the cause is me opening the phone.
The cause is the lack of a filter. You're being obedient to the environment of your inbox.
Mhm.
You're letting other people, your client, your boss, dictate your inputs. You've surrendered your attention.
So what does the causer approach look like then? How do I swim in that current?
The causer designs the inputs, and this starts the night before. You decide on one priority outcome for the next day. You say, no matter what else happens, I'm going to finish that slide deck.
Yeah.
That is your intended cause.
Okay.
Then, you control the input of your attention. You might shield your attention for the first hour of the day.
Shielding attention. That just means not opening email.
It means creating a fortress of solitude. No email, no Slack, no news, nothing, until that one priority task is done, or at least you've made significant progress on it.
So the input isn't just working hard. The input is explicitly blocking other inputs.
Attention is a cause, maybe the most powerful cause you have. Where you point it determines the reality you experience. If you point it at other people's demands, you experience their chaos. If you point it at your priority, you experience progress.
You're choosing to be the cause of your morning rather than the effect of your inbox.
You didn't like that.
Okay, example 2. Relationships. This is the big one. This is where we all get triggered.
And this is where the Stoic philosophy really shines.
The reactive scenario here is a classic argument. Someone, your spouse, a parent, says something sharp to you. Let's say you're doing the dishes and your partner says, "Oh, you're loading it that way again."
Oof, the tone.
Right, the tone. And snap, you fire back. "Well, if you want it done your way, do it yourself. It's instant. You don't even think."
That's the pendulum swing. The Kybalion talks about the law of rhythm. A swing to the right forces a swing to the left. They push, you push back. You're just a mechanism at that point, a machine part reacting to physics.
Nobody wants to think of themselves as a machine part, but it feels like that, doesn't it? It feels so automatic, like they pressed a button on me.
Yeah.
So how do we become the cause?
You find the space. Viktor Frankl talked about this, the space between stimulus and response. In that space lies our freedom. The pawn has no space. The stimulus hits. The response happens. The player widens that gap.
So the cause isn't stopping them from being rude. You can't control that.
No. You cannot cause them to be polite. You can't cause them to not be tired or cranky. The cause is what happens in that silence inside you.
Oh.
The input is the pause. You feel the trigger, that heat in your chest, the desire to defend yourself, but you don't act on it. You breathe. You look at the impression. The Stoics would say you put the impression to the test.
And you ask yourself, is this actually worth a fight? Is this about the dishes, or are they just tired?
Exactly. And then you choose the output. You choose a different tone. You choose a boundary. You might say, I need a moment to think about that. Or you might simply choose not to pick up the rope.
Not picking up the rope. I like that image.
The input is a decision to remain calm. The outcome, the effect, is de-escalation. And notice, you don't try to control the other person. You can only cause your own dignity. You can only cause your own response.
That's a key distinction. We should come back to that in the guardrails section. Okay, third example, habits. Specifically, the habit of drift.
We all know drift. It's wandering into the kitchen at 8 in the evening.
Yeah.
You're not really hungry. You're just bored. And
Yeah.
you see a bag of chips on the counter, so you eat them.
Or you sit on the couch to check one text, and suddenly it's midnight and you've watched 3 hours of videos.
We've all been there. The reactive scenario is that your behavior is determined by what's easy and what's close. It was there, so I did it. You are, again, obedient to the environment. The environment, the open bag of chips, the phone on the table, was the cause. You were the effect.
So the causer approach isn't just about using willpower to resist the chips, because I'll tell you, my willpower at 8 p.m. is basically zero.
No, willpower is a battery that runs out. If you rely on it, you will eventually fail. The causers uses what they call choice architecture. You design the environment to be the cause for you.
So hiding the chips is the cause.
Hiding the chips, or better yet, not buying them in the first place. Putting a bowl of apples in the center of the table, putting your running shoes right in front of the door so you literally trip over them.
You're arranging the chessboard so the moves you want to make are the easiest moves to make.
You're stacking the deck in your own favor.
Oh.
And another good cause here is the minimum baseline action. Sometimes the cause is just showing up. If you want the effect of being a runner, the cause isn't running 5 miles. That's too big of a leap. The cause is just putting on the shoes and stepping outside. That's it.
Because once you initiate that small cause, the effect tends to follow. You rarely stand outside in running shoes and then just go back to bed. The momentum takes over.
Exactly.
Okay, this brings us to a really, really important section. We need to set up some guardrails. Because when you start talking about creating your reality and being the cause, it can get a little, well, it can get toxic.
It can. It can veer into God-complex territory.
Yeah.
Or even worse, into victim blaming.
Right. Like, if I get sick or I get laid off because of a recession, is that my fault? Did I cause that with my negative thoughts?
This is such a crucial distinction. Becoming the cause does not mean you are the general manager of the universe.
Thank goodness for that. I do not want that job.
External reality exists. You cannot cause the weather, you can't cause traffic, you can't cause the economy, and most importantly, you cannot cause other people's behavior. The Stoics and the Kybalion are very clear on this.
So where's the line, then?
It goes back to the Stoic dichotomy of control. We control the input, not the outcome.
Control the input, not the outcome. Can you unpack that a little?
Sure. Think of an archer. The archer can control the quality of their bow, the sharpness of the arrow, the steadiness of their hand, the moment they release the string. Those are all inputs.
Oh, okay.
But once that arrow leaves the string, the wind might gust, the target might move. Those are outcomes. They are outside of the archer's control.
So if the arrow misses, it doesn't mean the archer failed in their process.
Exactly. You can control the quality of your work. That's the input. You can't control whether the client likes it. That's the outcome. You can control how you eat and exercise input. You cannot fully control whether you get a genetic illness outcome.
So if a tragedy happens, this philosophy is not about saying, I attracted this.
Absolutely not. That's a dangerous misuse of these ideas. If a stone falls on your roof, gravity and geology caused it, not your vibes. But, and this is the big but, you are the cause of how you respond to that hole in your roof. Do you panic? Do you despair? Do you blame the mountain? Or do you get to work fixing it? The event is the stimulus. Your response is the cause of what happens next. That's where your power lies.
And we also have to be careful about self-shame, right?
Yes, do not use this to beat yourself up for past reactions. Oh, I was such a pawn yesterday, I'm so weak. That is not helpful. Use it to build future power. Self-compassion is actually a very effective input for growth. Shame just causes us to hide and drift more.
Okay, we've got the theory, we've got the examples, we've got the safety warnings. Now I want to do something practical.
Let's do an audit.
A cause and effect audit. And I want you, the listener, to do this with us right now. You don't have to write it down, just try to hold it in your head.
Okay, step 1. Pick one life area where you feel stuck. Just one. Don't try to fix your whole life at once. Health, finances, your morning routine, whatever.
Got it. I'm picking afternoon energy. That's my big struggle point.
Okay, step 2. Name the effect you keep getting. Be specific.
The effect is, I feel totally drained and foggy at 3 in the afternoon every single day. I can't focus, and I usually end up wasting an hour just scrolling on my phone.
Okay. Step 3. Identify the main inputs feeding it. Be a detective. Look at your attention, your speech, your environment, your actions leading up to that moment. What did you eat? What did you do?
Okay, inputs. Well, for lunch, I usually eat something heavy, like a sandwich or pasta, right at my desk because I'm rushing. I don't drink much water because I'm busy, and I usually doom scroll the news on my phone while I eat because I feel like I need a break.
Perfect. You've just identified the causes of your fog. The heavy food, the dehydration, the mental fatigue from the news. You aren't just tired. You are causing tiredness. Now, step 4. Choose one input to remove.
I'll remove the doom scrolling. That mental junk food is probably exhausting me more than the sandwiches.
Good choice. Step 5. Choose one input to add.
I'll add drinking a full glass of water before I even start eating.
Simple. I like it. Step 6. Choose one phrase to repeat that matches the new cause. This is about aligning your internal language so you're not fighting yourself.
How about, I fuel my body for energy?
Excellent. I fuel my body for energy. And finally, step 7. Choose one proof action to do today. A small, verifiable piece of proof that you are the cause.
I will put a full water bottle on my desk right now.
That's it. That's the whole process. You identified the feedback loop, you swapped out the components, and you took action. You moved from effect to cause.
It feels so much more manageable when you break it down like that. It's not about this huge dramatic change my life moment. It's just changing the sandwich and the water.
Consistency, not force. That's the secret. You don't need to overturn the whole table. You just need to change the inputs.
Before we wrap up, we should probably address some common misunderstandings because even when you get this, it's so easy to slip back into old ways of thinking.
There are a few big ones.
Yeah.
The first is just, I can control everything.
Right, which we touched on. You control your initiative, not the universe.
Yeah.
You're the captain of your ship, but you don't control the ocean.
Correct. The second misunderstanding, if I fail, I am weak.
Oh, I feel this one. You try to be the cause, you try to get up early and you hit snooze, and instantly you think, I'm a failure, I can't do this.
And that's just the old reactive mind talking. Failure is just data. It's an effect telling you that your input needs adjusting. Maybe you need to go to bed earlier. Maybe you need to put the alarm clock across the room. It's just mechanics. It's not a moral judgment.
Be a scientist, not a judge. Misunderstanding 3. This requires massive willpower.
And we talked about this with the chips. White knuckling, it doesn't work long term. Systems and environmental design beat willpower every single time. If you have to fight your environment every day, you will lose. So change the environment.
Misunderstanding 4. I should suppress my emotions. This is a big one with stoicism. People think being a cause means you have to be a robot who never feels anger or sadness.
Huge misconception. The Kybalion talks about transmutation, not suppression. It's an alchemical term. It means changing one form of energy into another. You feel the emotion, you acknowledge the anger or the sadness, but then you choose the action. You transmute the energy of that emotion into a constructive behavior.
So you feel the anger, but you use that energy to clean the garage instead of yelling at someone.
Exactly.
Wow.
You steer the current. You don't try to build a dam. If you build a dam, it will eventually burst. If you steer the current, you can generate power.
And the last one. Change happens instantly.
Cause and effect often has a time lag. And this is why so many people give up. You eat one salad today, you don't look like an athlete tomorrow. You save a little money today, you aren't rich tomorrow. You are planting seeds today for harvest that comes later. Patience is part of being a cause.
So let's bring this all home. We've covered a lot of ground in Egypt, Rome, modern labs. How do we sum this up for everyone?
Well, first, remember that the effect is the outcome, but the cause is the input.
Right.
Next, realize that what we call chance is usually just a law we don't see yet. And understand that most of us suffer because we live in reaction to the world.
The practice is to pause and to choose your inputs intentionally.
Yes. And rely on small systems in your environment because they will always beat willpower.
And remember, you control your response, not the external world.
Finally, just know that consistency in being a cause is what changes the effect over time.
Become the cause. It's a really powerful mantra.
It changes everything. When you stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what can I cause to happen next? You step into your power, you stop being the pawn, and you start playing the game.
Next time, we're going even deeper. We're heading into episode 12, Gender, Creative Polarity, and Integration.
And before you tune out thinking this is all about biology, it is not. We're talking about the masculine and feminine energies within the mind itself, the forces that actually create reality.
It is going to be a fascinating discussion on how creation actually works mentally. You will not want to miss it.
Thanks for being here. If you want the full series, check the playlist, and please like and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.